God is a God of war. The YHWH is his name. The lower realm is constantly being plagued by wars and rumors of wars. In all circles, societies, governance, and focal points or religion, the war against evil is evident as the realm actively seeks to resist evil. Do not resist evil. This statement is completely out of phase with the religious self-thought. Welcome to part 4 in this spirituality session series entitled Unfolding the Missing Piece in the Spiritual Puzzle. In part 4, we will be looking at the metaphysical crystal. In part 3 of this series, we pointed out that while Jesus had no intention of destroying any religious institution, neither was he living in alignment with any of them. Jesus was nicknamed Christo, and his followers were called Christians because of what they believed and their manifestations. Eventually, Christos was used not only as a nickname for those who embraced the belief system, but the belief system itself was referred to as Christos. Christos was a belief system that an individual could take on to themselves. Those who have become Christo have put on Christo. We ended part 3 with a question. We needed to know whether it was the Christos as it relates to the physical Jesus that should be returning, or the Christos as it relates to the belief system. We will start by first proving to you, our audience, that the belief system was in fact given the name Christo as well. And to do this, we are going to turn our attention to a highly, seemingly contradictory figure. This is an individual whose writings have been highly tampered with and whose writings many cannot even begin to understand. We turn to no other but Apostle Paul. The name Apostle Paul runs parallel to anathema in some religious circles. Paul is seen as bringing pagan mysticism into religion. But who said Paul was about religion? Paul walked out of religion to embrace the Christo. And if Jesus was right in saying that the Christo would explain all things, then the Christo would have to be able to include all things. The Christo would have to be able to impart a clear understanding and interpretations of all, not some, of the many spiritual manifestations that are noted within the law principle. Not only should the Christo include a clear understanding and interpretation of all belief systems, and when we refer to all belief systems, we're talking about pagan, science, philosophy, psychology, or the religions that continue to fight for supremacy and to claim to be the only authentic because they are said to have Abraham as their Father. The Christo should be able to demonstrate the interrelatedness between them all. If you recall, Jesus was considered a wine bibber or a drunkard. He was accused of having chummy relationships with tax collectors and other so-called publicans. He was even called the devil, Beelzebub. And that same Jesus could converse with the leaders of many belief systems. And while his communication with the philosophers of his time is rather very sketchy, not much is there, he confounded many religious leaders and have been into many so-called pagan belief systems to expound to them the Christo. For the Christo to be able to explain all things as a part of an infinite and unified whole, the Christo should be able to bring all together as one for the purpose of an infinite one. But the reason why the Christo confounds the mass is that this unification of the all is taking place on a higher plane. An understanding of the Christo demands a higher state of the consciousness to appreciate the power and freedom that lies within it. And so, St. Paul will continue to be a stumbling to many. But for those of us who have become Christo, or who are in the brink of being transformed into a Christo, our spirit is in alignment with that of Paul or Jesus, for that matter. We bear witness of them both. The first statement of Paul that we would like to bring to focus is one that I alluded to earlier on. It says, those who have put on Christo have become Christo. Now, I cannot put on or wear the physical Paul. Neither can I put on or wear the physical Jesus. In fact, Paul's transformation to Christo had nothing to do with Jesus, because Paul never met Jesus. Paul, like myself, had a personal, experiential encounter with the Christo. I never met the physical Jesus. But in my spiritual wilderness experience, I came in contact with the Christo. And anyone who have put on the Christo have become Christo. So we have Paul Christo and we have Jesus Christo. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus is quoted as saying, "If you become my student and listen to my words, the stone will serve you." That is to say, if you exercise keen interest and actively listen to the words I am communicating to you, you will exercise dominion over your impossible obstacles and challenges. You will be able to exercise dominion over all because you now understand the all. Even the impossible is now possible and the unknown has become known. So those who actively listen to Jesus and Paul would become Christo. And those who become Christo would be endowed with such power that they would have dominion over all things. Those who become Christo would be able to govern all things. Becoming Christo meant they were no longer fearful because Christo explained all things. They know and they now have that which grant them the skill to approach all of life experiences and challenges with the ability. Becoming Cresto means the individual is not easily swayed. The individual is proactive instead of reactive and is fully knowledgeable of what is needed to govern their affairs with reason and responsibility. Bear in mind that Paul never told his followers that they should become Paul. Neither did Jesus tell any of his followers to become Jesus, but Paul's and Jesus' followers were encouraged to put on Cresto, to become Cresto, or to allow Cresto to come and dwell within them. But bear in mind as well that the Cresto was not just a title. The people were called Cresto because of their belief and the manifestation of their belief. Paul said, I preach Cresto to you. Paul and his religious counterpart had a falling out because in their religious consciousness, they had intended to make religion out of the Cresto. And new wine cannot be placed into old wineskin. Jesus brought the Cresto, and the Cresto was an explanation of all things. The only way he could impart the Cresto was by speaking, and for his followers to receive the Cresto from him, they would have to actively listen. For Paul, receiving the Cresto means the individual must be prepared to have their mind transformed. Be transformed by the renewing of the mind or the renewing of your spirit. So obviously, the Cresto is not a physical person. The Cresto had to be something metaphysical, something intangible. The Cresto had to be a belief system. And this belief system could not be placed into any institution or container that houses other belief systems. The Cresto is a belief system that stands high and tall over all other belief systems, and it pulls them all together as one unified whole, but on a higher plane. The fact that this belief system has the power to do this makes anyone who have been transformed into this belief system a powerhouse to contend with. They are in control because all things have been made clear to them. This caused the rulers and leaders of the lower realm to tremble. Hence the great massacre which led to the burial of the belief system. This is the return of the Cresto. As we bring the curtain down on part 4 of this series, I would like you to leave with the following points. The Cresto explains all things. The Cresto does not divide. The Cresto brings all together as one, but on a higher plane. This plane cannot be understood by the religious self-consciousness. The Cresto does not exert dominion over anyone. The Cresto supplies the tools for each individual to have dominion over themselves. The Cresto eradicates fear and doubt. In part 5 of this series, we take our journey into the belief system that explains all things. We dig deep into the Cresto. As always, have yourself an awesome week and aspire to become full.